Hello and welcome back to Garner Sewing Room. So today's tutorial, I am going to be walking you through how I make a baby girl's party dress. So this is for my niece for her one year birthday. So I'm gonna make a really cute dress, and I've already got everything pre-cut out. I'm going to actually leave a link to my website where I'm going to be putting on the blog with pictures of how I did everything, so that way you can kind of see what I did. I took this I kind of meshed up a couple of things. So I used this pattern. So this is McCall's 5791, and then right here I just put a kind of a cheat sheet for myself for me to know which one was what size. I'm kind of copying this a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just using the top bodice part of this dress, and then the bottom part, it's super cute, but I am going to do hers as a circle skirt with tulle on it. So it's gonna be really fluffy, really cute dress, and I can't wait to get started. All right guys, so this video, I'm gonna be stopping and going and different things like that, so it's not too long hopefully. But if you have any questions along the way, don't forget to leave them in the description box below. You can also go to my Facebook page at Garner Sewing Room. If you have any questions there, you can always message me as well, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And let's get started. Oh, let's not forget to subscribe, okay? I want to reach like 5,000 by the end of the year. I think we can do that. I think we can go and make 5,000 at least happen. Yeah? Awesome. Okay, so for today's video, what you're going to need is a pattern. So I'm using McCall's 5791. That's the pattern I am using today. So it's McCall's 5791, and I'm just using the bodice portion of this. So I've already pre-cut all of my pattern pieces. I will show you how I did that. So I'm not going to use that anymore, but what else you're going to need is you're going to need some pins, some clips. You're going to need a zipper. An all-purpose zipper is fine. If it's a little too long, it's okay. This is a 12, let me see. It's an 11-inch zipper. So I have an 11-inch zipper, and then I've got my fabric pieces already cut out, and then our tulle. So I'm using this 9-inch tulle. It's 6-inch. So this is a 6-inch tulle that we're using today. And then our pattern pieces that I've already pre-cut. I'm also going to need pinking shears. It's going to help with the curve. So you're going to need a pair of snips as well, just to kind of cut your threads. And you're also going to need possibly a seam ripper and a marking tool of some sort. I'm just going to use a pen today. I'm pink today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on what we're doing. All right, so let's get started. So I'm not going to need the tulle for a little while, so I'm going to set that aside. Everything that I don't need right now. So for right now, I'm just going to need my pins and my pattern pieces. So this is going to have an overlay. So I cut 2 pieces of the back, 1 piece on the fold for the front. That. And then the same, and I actually did double that with the lining. So the lining skirt is only the skirt itself. I made this actually a circle skirt. I just love the way circle skirts really work with little girls, especially when we're doing tutus. And then I've got 2 layers of the front and 4 of the back, 1 for each side. Okay, so it goes like this. That's the back pieces. This is our front pieces right here, just like that. And our overlay pieces, our front overlay and our back pieces. So what we're essentially going to do is we're going to be making a sandwich with the bodice. Okay, so we're going to work with our bodice first, and then we'll show you how to do the skirt. So for the bodice, we have to attach the overlay to our lining piece. So I'm just going to take 1 lining piece and the overlay piece and kind of get that here, and then I'm going to set this one aside. And then here, these are actually, because there's no right or wrong sides, they're symmetrical. So I'm gonna use this one for the inside of my lining because I kind of wrote a little bit on it, and it being facing the inside of the body is not gonna be too problem. So I'm gonna take that and our other pieces. Okay, so we're gonna start with our front piece first. There we go. So with our front piece, what we're going to do is we're going to lay down our lining piece down. Then you're going to grab your overlay. And an overlay is just a sheer fabric pretty much that goes over a lining piece. When you're using an overlay, you always have to have something to go behind it and a lining. So don't think that just because you have an overlay that counts as one layer. It really doesn't. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and pin all the way around just so nothing really shifts too bad. And we're going to baste this in place. So basting is just like a temporary stitch that can be taken out later on. On your machine, your settings are going to be at the highest stitch length possible. On my machine, that's a 5. On yours, it might be a 7. Okay? It doesn't quite go all the way to the end, and that's okay because this fabric kind of stretches a little bit. I'm going to make it go over there. See that? I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to stretch it right over here. It's not too big of a deal. There we go. We're just going to go ahead and pin all the way around. Just a couple pins. We don't want this shifting on us. We want this to become one piece. There we go. So I'm going to actually start with the top portion of it, and then I'm going to go around to the bottom. So I'm going to start up here. Actually, I'm going to start right here at this. No, I'm going to start at the top, like I said, because anytime I don't start at the top, I always do something. It always kind of gets wonky on me. There we go. You can see that a little bit better. Okay. And then just slowly go over the sequence. Don't go fast here. I'm doing this at a 1/4 inch. Our seam allowance is 5/8. So I'm not doing this curvy part here. Well, if I can. You don't really have to, but you can. I've done this pattern so many times that I don't even have to pull out my directions anymore. Shimmy it over, nice and slow, right through that sequence. That sequence can break a needle, especially if it has a little crystal balls on it. You don't have to backstitch when you're basting. Okay, so there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and take these out because I'm not gonna need those right now. So the other thing that you can do is right around here on these side seams and up here, if you see there's a lot of sequence in those seams, you can take your snips and get in there and just snip the thread that's holding the sequence, and it'll take those right out of your way. So you don't have to worry about those being in those seams. I don't like it pretty much on the side seams mostly just because it gets kind of bulky underneath the arm right in here. So I'm just going to take off these little pieces of sequence. Okay, now we're going to take this one and put it aside, and we're going to do the same thing with the back piece. All right, so now that we have our back pieces and our front piece already attached with the lining, so one layer of lining and the overlay, now we're going to assemble our side seams. So here, it's very important that we do this in this order. This is how I do it. A lot of times the patterns don't have you do it this way, but this is how I like to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our pretty sides touching and making sure that the center seam is towards the center of the front piece, just like that. We're going to sew down right here, right along our shoulder seam. So just line that up and pin at our shoulder seams. Now this is a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so on my machine, it doesn't really tell me what the 5/8 is. The 5/8 is a little bit past the 1/2 inch because it's 5/8, 1/2 inch, 3/8, and then 1/4 of an inch. So on my machine, that's how I know what it is. Yours, if it's domestic, you will probably already have that already marked out. So make sure my stitch length is down because I want a joining stitch length now. So I want a 2.5 to a 3 for joining stitch length. That stitch at the beginning, at the end. And I just bring this guy over and then just sew. It's just something I've picked up while I've done quilting and things like that. It just helps you move around a little bit faster. Okay, snip, snip. Snip your tails. Okay, clean up as you go. It's just like a kitchen when you're cooking. There we go. Beautiful. Now we're going to repeat the same thing with the lining piece. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and done our side seams, okay, you're going to want to press this open or finger press it, right? I'm just finger pressing it for right now. This kind of got a little hiccup in it when it first started. That happens just when your tails are kind of long and it just ties up a little bit. It's good. All right, so now that we've done that, now we're going to get our piece with the sequins and we're going to put them pretty sides touching. So make sure the pretty side is up on both of them, and we're going to sew around the neckline and then the armhole. So what I like to do first is make sure that this seam right here lines up. So my shoulder seams are lining up. That's very important. Then I like to make sure the beginning of my neck seam also lines up. Okay. So once everything is pinned, then we are going to sew along the armholes and the neckline. We are not coming down the back seam. We're not doing that. We're just going around the neck hole and around the armhole, just the curved parts. We're not going down any straight bits. I'm going to start with this side here. So now this is where the pinking shears come in, because anytime you have any curve, you really want to ease it out. So you're going to want your pinking shears here. So if you wanted to, before you start doing your pinking shears, you can kind of get in there and trim away the sequins with your not so good scissors. I'm not worried about it right now. These are pretty much on their last leg. I mostly do these for bag making. There we go. There's one. All right, so we're going to repeat that process with all of our curves. Okay, so sequins everywhere. Some sequins everywhere. All right, so I've ironed it down so it's flat looking. So now we're going to do our side seams, okay? So our side seam, you're going to take this front side seam and connect it to this side seam. So the important part is when you open this up, right, you're going to connect the sequins onto sequins, lining onto lining. So you're going to pick this up, connect it together. Remember what I said about seams. Always start at your seam and pin. Then if you have any notches, do notches. I don't think I have notches. Just smashed my hand on the thing, hello. And then on the other end, just lining it all up, okay? And then getting in there and doing that. So I can kind of feel that right here, this sequence is kind of thick right in there. So I'm gonna start snipping some of that sequence off. Because it's just gonna be too much in that seam. I'm sorry, did I hit you? I saw him fly towards the camera. There we go. Trash. All right, so do that there, and then we're gonna do the same thing with this side seam. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew down each side with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so we're gonna trim the side seams down just like we did with our neck seams. So now when we pull this, got a stray. There we go. Once we pull on this, now we have itty bitty armholes. So now this is the back of the dress right here. This is the back, and that's our front. So that's the bodice done. All right, so that's the bodice done. So now what we're going to do is we are going to move on to the skirt piece.